Okay. Let's see. Switch over to this for a moment while I get a couple things ready. Let's see. Need to put a couple of things over where I can see them. Not there. No, not there. You go here. Yeah, that'll be fine. And you here. Okay. Alrighty. So it is still the same project if you've been at other streams. I have made some progress off stream, but also I'm using a different IDE, so it's going to look a little bit different. I am going to, let's see. I'm going to hide the chat off the screen so that way it's not covering up a big portion of the IDE. Okay, so let's see. What I want to see right now is if, based on the changes I've made recently, if I can still build the editor. So I'll try that first real quick. In prior streams, we haven't actually had the project to a point that you could build the editor and actually get into the editor. That has been possible, but I did make some recent additions today, and I don't remember if I've sort of dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's that need to happen before it will allow it to build. So we're going to see real quick if it'll build. It shouldn't take terribly long to either decide to fail or get on with life. Not you. Let's see. Good. Okay, well, build failed, so that's fine. Alright, first of all, we're going to mute a bunch of that, because that's going to get annoying real fast. Alright, that's fine. No appropriate default. Okay, no, that makes sense. So let's see here. I'm going to open that with code so that I can access it here in a bit. Otherwise, that should be fine. And let's see. Okay. So we need a default constructor. Let's see here. I'm basing this on let's see here. So we want it to inherit from this guy, so oh, I forgot to open the relevant source file for that. We need a couple things. I should probably include these. Not that. Oh dear. Even though we're inheriting, we may need to reference some of that. Your usual work lurk. I guess that just consists of basically listening to the music and whatever chattering or keyboard noises I'm making. Let's see. I need to do a couple things here real quick. I need to Thanks for the follow, Tofu. Let's see. I need a couple things here. I need to pull up a couple documents for reference. Need some documentation. And you know, Ambrosia, I try to not that you stream during my work hours, but I try to lurk on streams that happen during my work hours, because I did think you did happen to stream on like a Friday or something for me. But boy, does the office Wi-Fi at my work hate Twitch for some reason. And then on top of that, I like switched my phone over to my cellular data, which I have like a 5G connection when I'm there, so I don't really get it. And it's strong. And it just won't, the app just refuses to work properly. I can go like audio only and it still just buffers and buffers and buffers. I can't for the life of me properly watch Twitch at work or like even listen to it. Like if I just want to listen to the audio, which, you know, I get the thing, you're at work, but like I usually put stuff on the background, something, because one, the ADD kind of requires it. And two, I'm a programmer, I'm writing code all day. So kind of need something or I might go insane. But just for the life of me, I can't use it. I can't even use it during lunch. Like it's not like a thing. It's just the Wi-Fi there. Hey Warden, and thanks for the follow, Ducky. Well, I'm guessing that shout out must have gone out. Let's see. So welcome to the stream. It's going to be probably boring if you don't like programming, because I'm not to the point that I have anything super interesting going on, but I can actually, here in a minute, I can see if I can launch the prototype that I had where I like kind of piecemealed some stuff together to get something playable. Like it's not playable. There's only like a handful of mechanics in it. But this is the hard part where we're building a code and stuff for it. What type of coding do I do? So for my day job, I'm a web developer. So primarily I work with stuff on Salesforce, which is like an e-commerce. Well, it's like a CRM, like customer management e-commerce sales platform. So in that case, I don't so much develop the application as I deal with like integrations. Actually, Salesforce, does it use React? Because it has its thing, it calls Lightning, which is basically just HTML and JavaScript. And then it has a code for its backend called Apex. Like the main code base for Salesforce might be React. I don't know, like it may have React involved in it, but we don't really mess with that so much. It's basically just Lightning. And to be honest, half the time we try not even to write custom code for that, because then we have to maintain it. It's more of a make work what we can, and we work more in like I barely would even call it developer work on a day-to-day basis, because it tends to work more with the flow system that they have, where it's more of like a visual scripting kind of deal. But it's to get, you know, things happening, customizations in the application. And then outside of that, I do some small little custom web applications, and some of that involves PHP, Laravel stuff. Since I started on that rambling explanation, Had a few follows in, so thank you. Looks like Milano, and well, I'm gonna say vampire because I'm not sure if that's supposed to be Nayley. Oh, yeah. You mainly work with React VR and JavaScript. Nay works. All right, Nay works. I mainly work with React VR and JavaScript. I'm also a web developer, but I mainly handle backend and a server. About all I get involved with when it comes to server stuff is occasional stuff with like Apache. Like I can set up a lamp server. That's kind of about all that. But that's we don't host our own like Salesforce. That's like a software as a service kind of deal. So I don't have to in that case, thankfully. We do have other applications that other people work on. So occasionally I get brought in on some other stuff. But I work for a manufacturing company during the day. So like most of what we're doing is in-house proprietary stuff that really a lot of our time ends up being more about APIs and integration than anything else. At least recently. I suppose, you know, things could shift direction. Let me send a message here real quick. But so what I've got here is code for the Unreal Engine, and that's actually the engine itself. All that stuff in blue, that's basically this IDE's way of showing that this stuff is ignored because it doesn't compile as part of this specific project. So I've got a few things in here right now that I've been working on here recently. None of it's like where I have a visual representation of it, but I can explain what some of it is if people are interested. So I've got like character controllers. So that's in here. We have sort of broken off into components too. Game dev lesson. You know what? I wouldn't take programming lessons from me, especially outside of anything web related. I'm a horrible programmer. I'm much more of a designer. It's just the unfortunate realization or unfortunate fact that if you're going to do solo dev, you eventually have to do some coding. But a lot of really great indie games, a lot of games people would consider classics, are terribly programmed. So this here is like what I would consider literally the base of a character. So like if I was going to create a character, whether it be one controlled by the player or a non-player character, an enemy, whatever the case may be, or anything that I might consider a character, even if it wasn't a person or an animal or whatever it may be, this would be the basis for that. And then I have child classes that extend off of this to add additional features. So this defines things like certain fixed names for bones in the skeleton that'll be animated. So in this case, you would most likely use this on a biped because I don't have it designed for like an animal, or at least, you know, like a dog. You wouldn't do this for a dog because I've got these design. This is sort of assuming that you have a skeleton that's bipedal. And then I have a few other things in here related to animation, or things like if the character's falling, when they land, it does what's called a break fall, and that can allow the player to roll, things like that. And then from there, I have what would be called the OMP character model, one man's poison character model. And so what the base character in the character model, your character inherits off of the base character. So like the base character is considered its parent. So this has some special additional features that would be for a character controlled by the player, most likely, or that has to perform certain tasks. So this would most likely be my human characters specifically, or NPCs, because it's going to do things like hold an object. Not every character may need to hold an object. So I have code in here like attaching to the hand. When you first started programming, your friend told me that it's all about copying and pasting what you find online and making it fit into what you need. I mean, there's definitely a degree of that. It is about being, once you get out of university, it is about being good at Google more than anything else. Especially because, to a degree, when you're working with a lot of programming languages, there's only so many ways to accomplish a specific task. So it's like when it comes right down to it, if you were going to try to compare code to code outside of things like the names of a variable or the specific name of like a custom function or method, depending on, you know, what you're working with, they're going to be pretty similar. Not necessarily identical, but they're going to be pretty similar because that's just the nature of the beast. I have, and you said you got you said you got a degree in game technology and just gave up on coding. So I have a little bit of background. While I haven't worked as a game developer, I started off as a modder. I made characters for the Jedi Knight games. So that was Jedi Knight 2, Jedi Outcast, and Jedi Knight Jedi Academy, I think was the third game. So I made character mods for those, and then I made one or two little mods for Knights of the Old Republic, the first one. And that kind of got me into game development, but those were mostly characters. So that was mostly 3D modeling. And then I went to college and got an associate's degree in simulation and game design. And I had fully intended to try to make that a career, but the industry is very difficult to get into. And most of the areas, well, especially at that time, I mean, that would have been 2012. So like remote work wasn't as much of a thing, certainly as it is post-COVID, but even as it was leading up to that. So I would have probably had, especially in such a starter position with, you know, little to show in terms of personal skill, I would have had to move somewhere. Okay, thanks for the lurk. Yeah, inspection, repairs. I'm a fairly recent homeowner, so we've had our fair share of those types of things. But thanks, Nay. So I basically decided I was going to have to move to an area that would have been high cost of living. Like the nearest concentration of game companies to me would be Raleigh, North Carolina. So I did the usual thing, tried to start up a little like bunch of side projects that didn't really go anywhere, didn't really get, because there was no money. Like, how are you going to do that kind of thing? And I wasn't making any money. So then I went and worked a help desk job for a long time. And then, well, I mean, there's some other in between things, but eventually worked a help desk job and decided to go back to college and get just a generic software development degree. So back in March, I officially graduated with my bachelor's degree in software development. And that was more focused on web development, which I'd already kind of had as a hobby since all the way back in the modding, like the days of doing the game mods. So got a little bit of background in that kind of stuff. Yeah, a lot of people had to move where the studios are. Yeah, I think that's probably less of an issue now. But the other thing I eventually learned was, so I started going to conferences and stuff when I got that, when I was first in college for that degree. And specifically, I attended a couple times the East Coast Game Conference, which takes place in Raleigh, North Carolina. It's heavily hosted by Epic, actually, and or they helped fund it majorly, and talked to a number of developers from different companies there, including like Insomniac and a few other companies, and basically came to learn that, and this was later reinforced by my own experience, but they don't really care about those game focused degrees, and because of that, they would rather see someone with no degree and a talented, portfolio, basically. And I briefly went for a web design degree at another college before getting my job and just working. I only took like a semester or two there at that school, but that school had, since I had graduated with my associate's degree, that school had opened up a game development degree program, and I happened to kind of look into it just out of curiosity and realized that the only thing they taught in that course basically was, basic like game design principles and then programming. You didn't learn about like specific tool, like any kind of 3D modeling or animation or tool sets for anything other than like programming. And I think they might have learned a little bit of level design, but it was heavily programming focused. Whereas my associate's degree, while one might say it didn't have as in-depth in one specific knowledge, it had, basic game design, level design. We worked with Unreal, 3D modeling, animation, texture work, rigging, a bunch of different disciplines within it as a whole. But that sort of put into perspective what some of the developers at the East Coast Game Conference had told me, which was those degrees, even probably today, are so new that they're not standardized. They can't look at a degree like that and be confident that you know a specific thing within the disciplines that you're maybe expressing interest in, without the portfolio. But even then, like, what aspects of that project did you work on, and how long have you been doing it for? They don't have a lot of that perspective if you only have, because usually if you've gone through college, you're going to have a couple things, but not like a really detailed portfolio. And so that's kind of where that came through. Thanks for the follow, 40. Ambrosia kind of beat me to the thanks. You're currently at the gym. Well, maybe you'll have, this isn't exactly gym workout music, so I guess you'll have a really chill gym session. Ducky, I'm going to be starting my own stream, but I'll keep you tabbed and be back in between games. Be back more when I'm live. All right, thanks, Ducky. I will keep an eye out for your own stream announcements, because I'm assuming you are also from, I don't recognize the username, but I'm assuming you're also from the Discord. But yeah, so I kind of learned that degree was kind of, I'm not going to say useless, because the actual process of getting it taught me a lot of different things, but it doesn't serve you for getting into the industry. And so I kind of put that aside, and I eventually decided to just kind of work as a standard developer somewhere, and that I would set game development off to the side and do it more as a hobby. And that's kind of where I've ended up. I didn't really get to work on any projects though until after I finished my degree. Like that was when I finally said, okay, I can sit down and I can do other things because I'm no longer completely swamped trying to finish this bachelor's degree. So, but that's the rant about game degrees that I sort of always have in the back of my mind. Let's see. I need to make a couple changes so we can actually have this buildable. And that's going to be our object initial. Yes, object. Did I do what I wanted? No, not object export. Object initializer. That's the one I thought you were doing when I hit the button. And we're good with that. We're good with that. Okay. Let's see. We need to do... Now we can set up our constructor. This is what it was complaining about. And then got that. Okay, so that actually should allow it to build now. That was the thing I was missing. And then while that is building, give me a second. I'll hide the screen here while I dig around for some files. I can open up what I'm leading towards basically recreating some of the stuff from, which is, it should be in this guy. As long as it will open. All right, we'll wait for that to open while this is building. Been here the whole time, just been busy. How are you doing? Glad to see you on the server. I'm doing pretty well. Had a slow day at work. I'm kind of just getting back into the groove of things as far as being back on Twitch and YouTube and streaming and whatnot. I did it a long time ago and then had to put it aside for a long time. But it's also a good way to get me to like sit down and work on things. The heck is that emote? What is that emote? What is the little... Is it like a crow? I can't hover over it in the thing I'm on. Let's see. I also have to thank Ambrosia for passing off that shout out, and that was very unexpected. 40 shake it. So that must be your own emote then. 40 shake. Is it a butt? Is it something shaking a butt? Can I open this in a new tab? What is this? What are you? Other than it appears to be a butt shaking, I don't know exactly what it's supposed to be. But I think, is it like this that you can do this and it becomes the higher? Nope, not that. Broke it. There's some way you can do it where you get the higher resolution version. The little raving one I've definitely seen before. The little shaking butt one was the one I was trying to figure out what the heck it was. It's just moving so fast. All right, so the build succeeded. So actually, that also means we can open that. But this did finally open. Oop. Kind of. It's got to discover a lot of assets. Yes, yes. Yes, I know. Fmod not set up. You're not needed in this. So this is just a dummy project that I created with using like plugins and marketplace assets basically from the Unreal Marketplace. And it was just to basically test out some features like character animation and the fact that like I can like kind of merge animations. So like if the character was injured, I can basically merge some animations together and create a system that keeps the character looking injured and like actually acting with a certain status. And so I could put like, you know, the guns in their hands. It doesn't fire. I don't have gunplay integrated in any way. This is some sort of zone behavior stuff, like being able to climb on things. It's all broken in this particular version. It's one of many things that needs to be worked out. Like I have a system that's supposed to be for crawling in vents. It does horrible things if I actually try to use, this was for hiding in lockers. If I actually try to use any of it, the character's going to freak out. I don't feel like getting stuck in the editor, so I'm not going to demo that at the moment. I'll hopefully get the working version. But then this was the, so I have like basically a Resident Evil style inventory system. So being able to, you know, do your typical Resident Evil 4 kind of dealio. Sort your items around. I really like the Tetris style inventory. And then global storage doesn't work in this demo, but these are some of the things I was prototyping before. And then gotta get, was it this one as well? I think that I have that works. Oop. Yeah, so Medcat, you can examine. My cursor's coming out of the screen, so it's not doing correct things there. But that's the prototype. The actual build of the engine has, I'm not going to say jack shit in it because it does technically have stuff in it. It's just all code. There's no visuals. Harley Sheen, welcome to chat. I've seen you in the Discord as well. Well, I appreciate the sentiment, Ambrosia, that it looks awesome. But it is, you know, most of those visuals are all from marketplace assets. That's nothing that I had to work to so much create. It was more of slapping things together to get an idea of how they'll work in the long run. Right now it takes a minute to open the actual editor. What kind of game am I making? So it's a like survival horror, but in like the Resident Evil 4 or 2 remake kind of style. So it's gonna be like over the shoulder. One of the things I was specifically showing, probably just as you came into chat, was it doesn't like something. Okay, well, I got some things to, or maybe it's just complaining. That may be something I can work with. It's just because a blueprint that it's expecting doesn't exist. So I was demoing the inventory. So kind of like in Resident Evil 4 and in the more recent remakes where you can, you have like I think they called it an attaché case. Ugh, can't speak. And you have, sort of like puzzle piece inventory. You have to physically fit the stuff in your inventory. I was showing off that. So it's going to, the difference between it and like the Resi games, it's not going to be zombies. but it's going to take place in majority in a like an asylum. So the public synopsis that I have is really the only public thing I've put out regarding it. I don't want to well, that probably flashbanged you guys, and I'm sorry, but it's a big white screen. The public synopsis effectively comes down to, I don't want to show more spoilery things in here. So One Man's Poison follows Detective Jake Dubrowski on his latest missing persons case, searching for the younger sister of one Darla Brandt. His search leads him to Fountain Vale Mental Hospital. It doesn't say it in there. It's abandoned, where he is attacked and wakes to find himself trapped. Jake must find the youngest Brandt sister and a way out of the asylum while reality is beginning to fall apart around him. So I'm going to be trying to work with, like, it was sort of the RE2 remake that made me think about it, because while the inventory and stuff and the camera system, all those features kind of came from RE4, it was a much more claustrophobic environment. And so that's kind of what I'm looking at, is that more intimate environment than you would have had. You know what? Evil Within would probably be a more apt comparison. I don't know if Evil Within had that kind of inventory system, though. I don't think it did. I don't remember, but Evil Within would be a similar comparison probably too. At least in the respects of control schemes and stuff. Had a basic wheel system. That's what I thought. I couldn't remember. Yeah, so see, in the actual project, there's basically nothing. There's the things I'm working on in code, which are these items down in here. But none of these have anything in them. Like, I have to come in here and actually ultimately put this stuff together, which will hopefully be something I can start doing soon. Because I have been putting a little more work into this outside of just the streams. The streams are just a good opportunity to make myself sit down and work on this, because as much as I want to do it, ADHD is one of those things that, like, you are really good at finding other things to do or just doing nothing sometimes. So, but one of the things that I am looking to do, and I haven't quite settled on the method. You're working on getting diagnosed with ADHD and relate. So I actually was diagnosed as a child, and then I actually went without any kind of medication for a long time. I was on medication as a child, and then based on what was available at the time, it basically became a case of mine was not severe enough that the medication was really beneficial. It actually made me too tired, or, well, more of a zombie, funnily enough. So I got off of it. More of my parents' decision, because I was still a really young child. And I kind of just learned to self-manage myself in a lot of ways for a long time. But I did, when I went back for my bachelor's degree, I did end up going and I didn't really have to get re-diagnosed, but getting medication again, which helps. But even that's still kind of getting figured out. Let's see. You also said, got you slipped through the cracks as a kid. I think a lot of people did. You said big brain. I consider myself a tech geek, and coding, deving is beyond me. So I said earlier that I'm definitely more of like a designer. I do the coding because it's sort of necessary since I'm doing projects solo. I'm a terrible programmer. Hey, Nay, thanks for the lurk. I'm a terrible programmer. Everything I do is probably not efficient. So I don't worry about that so much, because especially at the scale that we're dealing with here, it's not ultimately going to make a huge difference. And the thing I learned kind of when I was almost afraid to program something like a game and get into these more complicated systems on my own, because I knew I wasn't a good programmer. But then I've sort of learned over the years just how many of like what would honestly be considered indie classics are terribly coded. Like if you look at the code for Undertale, I believe it is. Undertale, every single bit of dialogue in the game is basically coded into one massive if-then statement, or like case statement. And it's basically just one giant, probably thousands and thousands of lines long piece of code. And it just has a case to switch to each of those dialogue statements. And like, that's honestly like probably the least efficient way to do something like that, because that means digging through all those lines of code to make tiny little changes. And then I think it's also got it's either that game or there's another one that's really, really popular where there's like a level that has a specific room you go into, and it has some kind of trigger or event that happens there. And it basically spends this entire long series of codes, section of code, checking and rechecking a value over and over and over again before finally setting it to 0 at the very end, after it's spent all this time checking but not really doing anything with it, and just checking and checking, and then finally setting it to 0. And I'm like, what? If people like this, that kind of almost like monkey typewritered something together, can make something, then there's no reason that I can't. Especially not if I just kind of monkey typewriter my way through it. And so that's kind of the route I've taken. But one of the other things I'm working on in here, and there's no current implementation of it because I haven't 100% figured out how I'm going to do it, but that is either I'm going to have it done through crowd control or through a custom implementation, which, as much more work as that's going to be, I'm kind of leaning the custom route at the moment because I can reuse it for other projects. I want to have native within the game and not as something that has to be added by like a mod, the way a lot of crowd control stuff is. I want to have support. No, go away. I want to have support for like Twitch integration. So one example is doing it through crowd control. This is an existing one that gets added through like mods to some games. I don't know how many games have it as a native feature. So it is something that they support adding to your own game. They have a whole thing about here if you're a developer. Where is it? Yeah, about adding it to your game. But you're kind of stuck with just whatever they provide. And I don't know, like, I don't know that it does things like voting and things like that. I think it's more of like they redeem and cause things to happen, from what I can tell. And I'd rather be able to do something more akin to what, like, what was done for, close those. What was done for Cult of the Lamb and Baldur's Gate, where they have like, it periodically asks chat to vote on things. I want to have that kind of built in from scratch so that streamers have that as an option and have it do things. And in fact, you can see kind of where I'm planning for some of that. I mean, none of that's in place, but I've got stuff in here for triggering stuff via crowd control. like spawn delays, enemy difficulty scalers. Working on I'm also working on a director AI that is basically it's taking some inspiration from two other notable titles, one being Left 4 Dead, and I guess Left 4 Dead 2. I think they both had it. And the other, which was the one I initially was inspired by, which was Alien Isolation. So in both of those games, you have what's effectively and there's a GDC talk on Alien Isolation and how they kind of did it. But basically, the idea is that there's a director AI. 40 says the service where I'm at is booty cheeks, so stream keeps freezing. Is that the reason for all the booty shaking emotes there, 40? So the director AI is basically always aware of what's happening in the game, but it will change, say, item spawns or enemy positioning, enemy behavior based on how well you're doing. And in fact, I suspect they did something similar in I don't know if it was in the original Resident Evil 4, but I think they definitely had it in the later, in the remake and then the later remakes, because they almost have a scalable difficulty setting. You have a setting that you can set it at, but it almost scales up and down around that based on how you're doing, to try to ensure that, one, you can make progress, but that two, if you're doing really, really well, it tries to be harder on you. So I'm kind of working on that. But then the other thing it does is in Alien Isolation, when the alien is pursuing you, it's not allowed to cheat. It doesn't, unlike the AI of most games, it doesn't always know where you are. So one of the issues, or one of the statements I've heard when I was studying game design was creating enemy AI is less about making the AI smart and more about making it dumb. You're telling it what it's not allowed to do, so it can't cheat, because it's part of the code. It knows what's going on, and so the idea is basically the enemies have to actually be looking for you, but at the same time, with the Alien and Alien Isolation, what it will do is the director, if it thinks you're doing too well, you're making too much progress, it'll start to give it hints and suggest that it go places basically to look for you. Or if it's in the same room as you, but it's looking on the other side of the room and you're hiding in a thing, even if it's not able to know that you're in, say, this locker, it's going to send it over there and make it and seem to inspect the locker to creep you out. And it basically does these things and then has what they referred to as a menace gauge. And so as it's menacing the player, that gauge slowly fills up. And then once it gets to a certain point, it decides to give you a breather so that you can make progress. And it will send the alien somewhere else, tell it to go look somewhere else. And that's kind of the idea, is creating sort of a director AI that is adjusting spawns of items and enemies, and adjusting enemy behavior to create a more dynamic difficulty. But then also, if you had something like crowd control turned on, allowing those two to sort of interact. So one of the things I want the AI to be able to do, and the director to be able to do in that case, is actually prompt the crowd control events. So that's one of the reasons I want that voting feature that exists in the integrations from Baldur's Gate and Cult of the Lamb, is because then it could prompt chat in those moments to do a vote of whether to help or harm the player. Got a bounce hopping in the sauna. This was definitely an interesting stream. I really enjoyed it. Welcome to the campfire. Thanks for hanging out, 40. Hope you enjoy your sauna. Personally, that sounds like a sweaty nightmare. Gonna make yourself dinner. I just wanted to show some support. I'm gonna open you on desktop, give you a lurk. Thanks for the lurk, Harley. Let's see here. Yeah, I definitely will easily be, I don't want to say provoked into rambling, but I can definitely ramble for quite a while about those types of subjects. Whether or not it's informative at all, or I make a point ever, is to be debated. But it probably happens sometimes. Okay, so now that I have this guy, I need... Let's see. I need a couple things. Let's see. That's fine. You can trust the folder on that. Yes, trust folder and continue. I need, where is it here? Source. Not that. I need, where are you? Object. Okay. Inventory. So I need a couple things here. I need to create or add the engine texture 2D header file, and I need the, let's see, I'm not after a Copilot suggestion. Can you go away? Thank you. I need the engine types. Include engine, engine types. And then I also need let's see. I guess we're going to create a new struct library because we definitely need that in here. So we actually just need that in here, struct. This is going to be our OMP item struct library. It doesn't need a C++ file. That can go away, actually. I kind of didn't think about it doing that. Can you just go away? Oh, nope, not that. I was hoping I was going to delete the file. Gotta be honest. Delete that. Oh. New IDE. Gotta get used to that. Alright, cool. Oh, wait. Did I delete the wrong thing? No, I didn't. Cool. Okay. Got really confused for a second there. Panicked. Alright. I need... We have to include... Oops. include the generated OMP item structed library dot generated for after it's compiled. And then that's a generic struct, so we need to get rid of that because we need the ustruct blueprint type. Yep. And then it's actually going to be a few different structs, to be honest. So we can do struct f mp item size. And we'll have a generated body. Columns. So this is going to be what determines our the amount of grid space in that inventory that this item would take up. Hey Delaney, you're from the Discord. I think a lot of people in here are from the Discord. Lurking while you eat breakfast. Thanks for the lurk. There's definitely, if nothing else, chill music for the most part. So I think there's a couple higher, more intense songs that play, but none of it has lyrics. It's just background music. And probably the clacking of a keyboard and my occasional mutterings. Unless people have specific questions that they ask, because we did have some specific conversation going on for a bit. So I'm going to do this as display name. Should be columns. And then the metadata for this. We want to clamp the minimum would be 1, the most you would probably ever occupy. And then UI max let's say 20. And no reset to default. And then we have to, because it's a blueprint, and we're going to allow it to be blueprint spawnable, editable, we have to give it a category, or the thing will complain. So we're going to call that item size. And we're going to make that an integer, a 32-bit integer for item width. And then we'll do one for the rows of the item. And that can probably all be the same. Do another integer 32-bit item height. Thanks for the follow, Lemon. Or Drizzle. I don't know which you would prefer to go by. Or both. Feel free to correct me. F OMP item size. This would be a constant integer 32 defaulted at 1. And Y defaulted at 1. Item height. Yep, those are good. Yes, although I would honestly prefer if, for readability's sake, that was over there. That would be great. Lemon is fine. Ambrosia's really on top of those thank you messages. She's on the money with those things. Even when lurking. Let's see. Gotta get... Not that. Where is it? There we go. Get that where I can see it. Cool. Okay. So we've got our item size struct. And then we're going to need... I mean, technically... enums would be something else. But I do need to kind of set up some enums as well. Yeah, I'm gonna, since I did a separate character enum library, I feel like I have some other structs to put in here, but I'm also gonna create a enum library. You know what, since I don't want you to create the extra crap, I'm just going to do this. OMP item enum library.h. Because I don't need the extra stuff. Yes, I want to add it to Git. Thank you. And we can go ahead and copy these because these need to be there, except for that needs to be changed to enum. And then we can do, yes, that's going to be blueprint type. I wish you would stop suggesting me things. Enum class e OMP equipment slot, equip slot, and actually let's call this item equip slot. I don't know that I'm going to have to distinguish that at any point, but it might be useful to be able to. And then we'll make this an unsigned 8-bit. Integer. And then the type of slots, we can do none. There's going to be a head slot. There's going to be a... I don't think shoulder is going to be a thing. But we can do torso. Could you stop with that? That'd be great. And yes, Tofu, thanks for the shout out. Let's see. Let's do... we'll just say legs as the lower body and feet. He is going to be able to have a jacket, so I'm just going to call that overwear. belt. We're going to say L hand, R hand. I don't actually, some of these I may end up not even using, but I'd rather have these ones I can think of than not have them. We're just going to call this weapon. I haven't decided if we're going to have grenades, but we'll say grenade. And technically, we'll do tool as well, because we can make those usable. A consumable is probably a good one. And let's see. Key items. And then we'll do custom one. We'll probably do these through 10. Okay. That should be good for now. I don't even think I'm going to end up needing a good portion of those. Thanks for the follow, Narnia. You're still at work? Well, I hope you have a good rest of your work day. Or work evening, or whatever it may be for you. I appreciate the visit, regardless. EOMP item rotation, because you can rotate it in the inventory. Event 8. Stop. There we go. And then we're just going to make it horizontal equals 0 and vertical equals 1. To at work pals. I guess that's true. You're both still at your jobs. Although I think based on time zone, it's probably like middle of the day or whatever for you, Ambrosia. So you probably got a while. I don't know exactly what your usual shift is. Let's see. Class. EOMP. Type. We're going to call this primary, temporary, storage, hidden, quick access, and equipment. That should be good for those. And then we probably need one. I like the idea of having one that can have a predefined I don't know if I can do it this way. Can I do it? I don't think I can. I don't think can have, yeah, you can't use an expression. But I should be able to just, yeah, just be a value. So we don't want to do it that way. That would be a struct, actually. I can set something up for that in another. Still lurking gorgeous. I'm sure that's got to be someone other than me that's aimed at. But thank you for the lurk. Let's do, you know, I don't really care that much about like a rarity, like in the usual sense. But what I want to do is use that to determine, that'll work. Use that to determine spawn rate. Like how likely it is for an item to spawn somewhere at all, or at all. Specifically regarding difficulty settings. I think that would be a way to do that that would be, if nothing else, interesting. I'm going to do that as item slots type. Okay, I think that'll be good for that one. And let's see, I need to do don't think we need anything else in there right now. But let's see. We can do a struct enum library to get those related, kind of like I did for this. That might be useful. Let's see. For now, I'm going to set that one aside, and then I need to add. Thank you for the follow, Deco. I'm just going to shorten that, if that's all right with you. Hi from Campfire. Thank you for visiting. It's mostly just chatting and me typing away at code. There's nothing incredibly interesting unless you have an interest in programming. In which case, you could probably find a better programmer somewhere, to be honest. But I appreciate if you are interested in hanging out nonetheless. We need our item enum library. Those are going to be important. And you know what? Could probably not that. Enum class omp item type. I just thought of this one. Yes, most call me Deco, so that's good. Oh, I'm glad that I guessed correctly on that one. Nice game dev. I have no idea about programming. I'm also at work at the moment. I think several people in chat are at work, including Ambrosia, who's moderating for me. Well, if nothing else, you've got some music to listen to and the clacking of a keyboard. So, because I think the keyboard definitely gets picked up by the microphone despite my best efforts. Ah, another New Zealander. Yeah, you guys are on like almost a complete opposite time zone. And we'll say crafting. 2:15 on a Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, ASMR keyboard. I don't think it's quite high quality enough audio for ASMR, but you know what? If it gets you there, then I'm happy to oblige. Let's see here. I need to create. I think I need to create an inventory component still, probably too. Let's see, component. I wonder if I can get this new IDE to work with me here, and class. Okay, let's see if this thing's gonna work with me here. So I need to create a class. What am I making? So I am making a Resident Evil inspired, specifically like Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 2 remake inspired horror survival game. Except it's not gonna be zombies. It's I have a different type of theming in mind. Although actually an earlier comparison was made in chat, and I, for the life of me, don't remember who brought it up. So if you are still in chat and you can speak up, that would be good. A comparison was drawn to Evil Within, because my setting is also an asylum, or a mental hospital. So, well, I think the difference is in that one was technically, that hospital was technically supposed to be functional, at least the first one. But yeah, so right now I'm mostly working on the programming aspect, so there's not a lot of visual stuff to show off. I did show earlier like a prototype of sorts that had been made, but that was about it as far as what I have at the moment. But let's see, I need an actor component. And it's gonna need to be a OMP inventory component. I wonder if I can get it to do I haven't used this. Cool, that's gonna work. Yes, I like that. Source OMP. Yes, good. Do that. Do exactly that. That's what I want. Yes. Yes, add those to visuals, or add those to C++. Don't show again. Don't show again. Okay. Did it create my stuff? It sure did. Sweet. That works much better than Visual Studio. Much better than Visual Studio. And it already has the Unreal specific things I need in it. That's much, much better. Big improvement. Oh, and if I had that filled out, then that would automatically be filling out too. That's great. Major improvement on the way this is usually done. Okay, so include engine, data table, include actors, inventory item. That should be what we need for those. Let's see. Is it doing the thing? Oh, nope. Well, kind of. That's what I wanted you to do, just that part. Generated body. Oops. Slot index. That's going to be a U property. Edit anywhere. Blueprint read write. Category item slot. We'll call that the slot index. Empty. That's going to be the same there. And we're going to make this a Boolean, so that's going to be a bool. B is empty. So I said B is empty for this variable name, and it's kind of interesting because I'm just going to say slot is empty so that that's a little more obvious. For a lot, most programming, you wouldn't necessarily do something silly like this, like putting a lowercase b before a Boolean. But for whatever reason, and seems to be the only variable type that they do this with, and it's not mandatory from a functional standpoint, but every Boolean pretty much in the Unreal Engine starts with a B, a lowercase b in its variable name. And it's to a point that, like, when you're working with it in the engine editor, it actually just by default hides the lowercase b. It's really crazy. And like underscores or spaces, I think, from like a visual standpoint, because it when it's a boolean, it just knows or expects that lowercase b, and so it hides it. It's weird. So like if you want to code to the proper standards for the Unreal Engine, you would technically want your what you want to call it. You would want your booleans to start with that lowercase b. Just having a brain fart on that for so hard for some reason. Let's see. And then our item reference. That should be right. And then let's see. Slot type. Equipment slot. We'll do that. Slot type. And then do F OMP item slot struct. And then we can do slot index -1. B slot is empty. Will default to false. Or no, sorry, we'll default that to true. We want the slots to be empty by default. And then B is part of item will be false. False. Our item reference will be a null pointer. And our slot type will be a none. Equip slot. Yeah. What? Wait a minute. Yeah, none. Why is it complaining about this? What does it want from me? What are you unhappy about? Can you... Oh, I need to include the enum library. That's fine. That is fine. Include away. Let's see. Struct FOMP inventory save data. Need that. Generated body. Oop. I don't have that just yet, so we're going to leave that alone. I need the slot type. Let's see. I think actually that needs to be item type. No, item slots type. Yeah, no. Equip item slots type. Let's say something didn't feel right about that. And that's because it was wrong. It needed to go there. Let's see. The occupied slots. T array int 32 occupied slots. Item stack. Oh, you know what? I also need to be adding the save game meta to this, which I have not been. There we go. So our item stack can be a 32-bit integer. And we can do random ammo charges. Because that could be used for more than one thing. FOMP, inventory save data. Our item equip slot's actually going to be primary by default. Did I do that wrong? I think I did. I think I might have named those things too similarly. Item slots type. Item equip slot. I feel like this is what that defaulted to and I ended up changing it. So that might be my brain not cooperating with me. And remembering the things that I previously established. Ow, just hit the microphone. Let's see. Oh no, I hate the pirate music. Oh no, go away. Oh, make it end. All better now. Let's see. Let's do... Hi, Key. Welcome to the stream. I think you've been in here during a previous development stream, but maybe you were just in when I was playing Elden Ring. I don't quite recall. Let's see. Need a use struct. Blueprint type. Not immutable. Blueprint type. And then we'll set this guy to be struct p save data with. You know what? This struct could go in the struct library. It doesn't need to go there. It can go in the struct library. I don't know why I was trying to put it outside of the struct library. Get back in the struct library where you should be. It was Elden Ring. That's what I thought. Well, this is what my Tuesdays and Thursday streams usually consist of: is programming something, creating something. And you know what? It won't always be programming. That's actually, to say that it's always programming is disingenuous. It has been programming. Eventually there'll be 3D modeling and animation as I get into those different parts, level design. But right now it's boring programming. Which is probably my least favorite part of game development. It is not a quick thing to do. That's fine, but I want this one to just be for save. Category. Save data. Int 32. We don't need that to be -1 though. We can make that 0. Just finished dinner. Well, let's see. I think you said when I was in your stream yesterday, I think it was, that you're Eastern time like I am. So that means you had a fairly late dinner, unless that's the time you usually eat it. I had to have my dinner just before I got on stream. So that actually, I was a little bit later getting home than I'd liked. So that actually resulted in me basically horking down a bunch of chicken nuggets right before starting stream. Like, had the camera off and it was just shoveling food into my face so that I wouldn't eat on stream. Let's see. Let's keep our other structs in here too. So in this case, let's do OMP. You know what? This actually probably should have been item save data. Right now I'm currently programming a inventory system that should hopefully function similar to the one in Resident Evil 4 and like Resident Evil 2 Remake. So have that kind of puzzle piece. I forgot to rename that one. Okay, now we're good. Okay, I need my generated body. And we're going to make this a T-array of F MP save data with shortcuts. Inventory items. Inventory items save data. And then we can do another U property. And set this one as 32-bit integer for selected shortcut. And then U property. A string for a unique ID. And then U property. Int 32 equipped item slot. F. It's gonna be item size is what I need. Item size. No. That's gonna be No, that's going to be item size. Let's see. This actually should probably be... Inventory size. IMP. Inventory saved data. Oops. Let's see. We actually don't need to have this one in there by default. Let's see. Oh, and I think I should point out now the UI on the stream says that we met the follow goal of 70. I'm not 100% sure that we did, because that may be a Streamlabs thing. If we did, thanks. And thanks regardless if we got one below, because Twitch is currently reporting 69. Nice, not 70. But if nothing else, that was a goal I set with the idea of reaching it by the end of the year. And in that case, or I think I said it with technically by the end of, I think I said at the end of February. I thought not end of the year, end of February. I was thinking only like a month or two. But yeah, if that's the case, then we already blew that one out of the water. Pretty much. Because the Twitch dashboard is reporting 69. So I've noticed a bit of a weird discrepancy between Streamlabs and what Twitch reports. Like Streamlabs seems to only count the ones that happen when I'm live. Okay. I think that puts me at a decent stopping point. I don't know if it'll build right. I don't think it'll build right now. Let's see what happens. Let's see if we build. Because we're just over 2 hours. I know, like, a couple people, like he just got into the stream. But it is getting on 9 o'clock already, so I have to be up for work. Did it actually succeed? Not quite. It's not quite done. That's the header tool. So we'll see if this builds real quick. Either way, we'll probably wrap up here shortly. Let's see, while I'm doing that, who is available that I could raid to. Thank you for the stream. It's been fun hanging out. It is always a pleasure, Amber. It is always a pleasure. I would hang out in your own streams more often if I was awake for them. Let's see. Who shall we jump into? Okay, let's try. Looks like Starby. Let's try Starby here. Let's see. Raid. Is it Shining Starby? Let me make sure I type this correctly. Shining Starby. All right. Yeah, so I'm going to... and actually, my build succeeded. For those that didn't see it on the screen, it did succeed. So the project did build. There's just not much to demo from it. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and mark this as ending. I will be back on Thursday for another development stream where I'll be working more on this. And I'm going to start the raid. So we will raid over into Starby. Good night, everybody.